If you need unlimited domination, clutch time, or anything else online or offline grinding, make sure you hit up RoseNBA on Twitter for quick, safe, and reliable grinding services. Yo, what is good, YouTube, and welcome back to another JC2K video. In today's video, we're doing episode 6 of I Build Your Teams, the series where I build my viewers' teams into the best teams possible for my team unlimited and or competitive play based on how much MT they have and what their squad is currently looking like. Before we hop into the video, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help me push towards the 8,000 subscriber mark on the channel. I upload every single day, and I would really appreciate your support if you haven't already, if you do subscribe. Without further ado, let's hop right into it. Let's start off with this first team today, which comes in from Defeer. I hope I'm saying your name right. If I'm not, I do apologize, but he's got 130,000 MT and plays on current gen. Jaden Ivey and Sean Livingston are fine budget point guards. I actually think the Sean Livingston card is a card I've kind of overlooked, but he's really not bad. Ben Mathern at the 3. He's not small. He's 6'7", so he's not small. But I do think you're better off moving him to the 2 and selling Luka. This Luka's way too expensive. He's just not that good, unfortunately, and Luka's my favorite player in the league, so it's a shame that Luka's not very good in my team. But for me, I feel like he's a pretty easy sell. I think you move Ben Mathern to the 2, and then I think you have to get another 3, and I would also sell Mark Williams. And Bob McAdoo's not terrible, I guess. I might... You know what I would probably do? I would probably, since you have Bruce Bowen and Kawhi off the bench, both these guys can be locks, and Sean Livingston is a good defender. What I might consider doing is moving Kawhi to your starting 3, Ben Mathern to the 2, and then bringing Bruce Bowen and Robert Horry off the bench. Then you have Paulo and Bob McAdoo, and then I would sell Mark Williams for sure and replace him with a guy like Chet Holmgren. I think that's your best upgrade right there. You're actually probably going to profit MT if you do that. At that point, you could look to pick up a guy like Carmelo Anthony. He's the best guy that you can get in your price range for your team. You could play him at the 4 and bring Paulo off the bench and replace Bob McAdoo, and that would give you a 5 of Jaden Ivey, Ben Mathern, Kawhi, Carmelo, and who did I say at the center? Chet Holmgren. And then off the bench, you'd have Livingston, Bowen, Robert Horry, Paulo, and Aldridge. I don't think that's a bad 10. You also don't need to pick up Carmelo. You could just do that same 10 and sub McAdoo into the backup power forward and have Paulo starting like you have it right now and not have Carmelo. But overall, your team is solid, but with a few tweaks, it can definitely be a bit better. Next squad today comes in from Jet. He's got 200,000 MT. He's close to getting Larry Johnson, also close to another centerpiece. Paulo needs to be evolved to Diamond. He's got him in the locker code today. I would assume, since you got Jermaine O'Neal, that you're probably going for the Central Division. If I'm wrong, I'll just say go get James Worthy, Russell Westbrook, or Kevin McHale if you're not going by division, which if that's the case, just go get one of those 3 guys and plug them in at one of these spots. But if you are going by division, I would recommend the trophy case player that I'd probably recommend for your team. That's kind of tough. I'd go Derrick Rose still. I think Derrick Rose is the next trophy case player that you should probably be going for. Then you could have D Rose and Dyson Daniels as a point guards. If not, maybe you just keep Dyson and Sean Livingston. Latrell and Jay Rich, I'm cool with. Alex English and Kawhi, also not bad. Chet and Paulo, once Paulo is fully evoed, I think that's solid as well. And then we have Jermaine and Joakim. Now, I'm also going to recommend Carmelo Anthony for this team, just like I did for the last team. I would move Chet to your backup 5 and play Carmelo at the 4. I think that's the easiest upgrade that you can make and really the simplest. And it's going to cost you about 100,000 MT. It's going to maybe save you cost about half your MT. And then once you get Larry Johnson, you start him at the 3, bring Alex English off the bench and sell Kawhi. And then you'd have a starting 5 of something like D Rose, Latrell, Larry Johnson, who did I say at the 4? Carmelo and Jermaine. And then off the bench, you'd have something like Dyson Daniels, Jay Rich, Alex English, Paulo, and Chet. And that 10-man is really, really good. Third squad today comes in from Cali. He's got 2 million MT, which is a ton of MT, and a super solid squad already. A lot of reward cards. I think pretty much this entire team is a squad of reward cards. I'm not sure if you sold your team after 250 or something like that, but we got Donovan Mitchell and D Rose. We got Iggy and Rip, Scottie Pippen, Larry Johnson, Sean Kemp, Giannis, Big Z, and Jermaine O'Neal. Honestly, this team is relatively similar to mine. I'll be completely honest, because I pretty much sold. I didn't sell all of my auctionable cards. I kept KG, Carmelo, and Chris Bosh. But outside of those 3 guys, I pretty much sold my team, or the few guys that were auctionable in my team outside of those guys today. And I think your 1 through 3 in your starting lineup and your bench is great. Sean Kemp also really, really good. And then Big Z and Jermaine are also great at the center position. The only card that I would recommend picking up right now is Carmelo Anthony. If you want to upgrade further, you can add a guy like KG at the center position. But if you're saving towards season 2, which I don't think is a bad idea, especially with how much MT you have, it'll set you up great for the first couple pack drops of season 2. Right now, what I would consider doing is picking up Carmelo because he's just so elite. You bring Kemp off the bench, and honestly, I also see that you have the 4 trophy case 4 pink diamonds from the Central Division, so I'm assuming that you're set up to get Jimmy here in the next couple days. And if that's the case, once you get Jimmy, you just plug him in at the 2 and bring Iggy off the bench. Take Richard Hamilton out your lineup. Your squad is great, though. Really, the only player I would be buying is Carmelo, just because I don't think Giannis is all that great at this point. Next squad today comes in from Ant-Man. He's got 200,000 MT on current. He's got a little bit of a weird squad, is what I will say. Pink Diamond Steph, not worth his MT. Damian Lillard, exact same thing. I would sell both of those guys. Get rid of them and get rid of them quick if you can. Next, though, we have J.R. Smith. We have Carmelo. This duo is solid. Levine, I don't love. Kawhi, I don't love. I mean, Kawhi I actually do like. Brandon Ingram, James Worthy, I'm a big fan of both of them. Zion is quite good. I think you can keep Zion and Chet Holmgren as well. This squad, I feel like, could use a few different adjustments. So I'm actually going to come over here to 2KDB, and I'm going to build you a squad real quickly. Now, the one problem that I do have right now with the point guard position is that there aren't a lot of good auctionable options, and I think that does limit you a little bit. So if you wanted to keep one of those guys, I wouldn't blame you, but for me personally, I still think a guy like Dwayne Wade, who's going to be a really good slasher to capable defender, is probably the budget type. He's not crazy budget, but the guy that I would go with at the point guard position right now is D Wade. And then at the shooting guard position, I do think we still keep JR. What I would do is at the small forward position, I would now put Carmelo. I think I would just change that around a little bit, and then you put James Worthy at the 4. And who did you have at your 5s? Let me check. We had Zion at the 5s and Chet. Okay, so what I would actually do is I would plug Zion in right here off the bench. I'd put Brandon Ingram at the backup 3. Backup 2, who did you have at the backup 2? I'm trying to remember your team. Levine, I would definitely replace him. Sell Levine, sell both your point guards, sell Kawhi. We can have Dyson Daniels in at the backup 1. I think that's solid. You already have him off the end of your bench, and he's a stud, so I think we throw him in there. We go Latrell Sprewell at the backup 2, and then you need centers. Chet is a great backup 5, which you already have him at the backup 5, which I'm a big fan of. And then we need to add a starting 5. And right now, with the amount of MT you have, I will say once you sell these players, Steph, Damian Lillard, and Kawhi and Levine, these 4 guys, you sell those 4 guys, you're going to make a lot of MT. So I think you could afford to buy a guy like Chris Bosh. I think he's a great option. And I would probably consider running something along these lines for your 10 men. You build this squad, you're going to have such an elite team. I really think it's going to perform a lot better than the squad that you have right now. So this is my opinion for the type of 10 men that I'd be trying to build right now if I were you. Now, 4th team in today's video is going to come in. No, that was the 4th team. 5th team comes in from Blaze. Brain isn't working. 150K. He's working on Richard Hamilton. Once you get Rip, you can have Ja, Rip, Larry Johnson, Zion, and Big Z off the bench. You'd have James or Derrick Rose, Bruce Bowen. I do think you need a backup small forward, Paulo and Jokic. I don't love this Jokic card. Offensively, he's really good. Defensively, he's limited. But if you're a fan of him, and since you already locked him in, I don't think he's a bad card to hold on to. Outside of Rip Hamilton, when you add him to the squad, I think you really should get a backup small forward. It's kind of up to you what you want to do with that backup small forward position. You can go with a guy like Carmelo if you want, have Bruce Bowen as your lock off the bench. You could go with a little bit more of a defensive, or a lot more defensive small forward. A guy like Kawhi Leonard, maybe the Diamond Kawhi, would be a good option for your price point, I think. And it looks like you got the Ja and the Zion from the locker codes today, which is a massive W that you got to add those squad cards to your team for free. So for me, I would personally probably move Bowen. Once you move him to the backup shooting guard and you have Rip starting, I would probably go Kawhi because Bowen can be your lock off the bench. Or I'm sorry, I would go Carmelo because Bowen can be your lock off the bench. But if you wanted to go to Kawhi instead, totally cool with that. But either way, backup small forward is your main spot to upgrade, in my opinion. Second to last team today comes in from Janpai. I hope I pronounced that right again. If I didn't, I apologize. But he's got 60K MT. He says he's going to waste it to get Larry Johnson. I don't hate that. I think Larry Johnson's pretty good. And I actually kind of do like Bosh at the 4. I like your team a lot. You have 3 reward PGs. What I will recommend is once you get Larry Johnson, you plug him in at that backup 3. You bring Paulo to your Iggy to your backup 2, and you sell J.R. Smith, and then you move Cade Cunningham to the 1. You take Derrick Rose or Donovan Mitchell, whoever you don't prefer as much, out of your lineup and put the other one as your backup point guard. And then you add a 2 as well. And the 2 that I would add is Latrell Sprewell. So I think that would give you something like Cade, Latrell, Pip, Bosh, and Jermaine. And then off the bench, you have something like Donovan Mitchell, Iggy, Larry Johnson, Paulo, and Big Z. So that's what I'm looking at for this squad. I think it's a really solid squad already, but you add a couple pieces there. Change a couple things around. Your team is going to be incredible. And then the final team today comes in from Christopher. He's just got 103,000 MT. 1 trophy piece away from getting Tim Hardaway. He's not the best, but it's the one he's closest to. May wait for next season to get him though. Okay, so this squad could you definitely use some work. We got some pieces on here that I don't love. I don't know. I think you can make some pretty significant upgrades. I'm going to go to 2KDB as well and rebuild this squad a bit as well, as much as I can anyway. So right now, you have Jason Richardson, you have Richard Jefferson. Richard Jefferson is a dog. I think you can definitely use him. Throwing him in there at that shoot small forward position would be great. Once you get Tim Hardaway, you throw him in at that point guard position as well, and he's going to be a very, very solid option for you. You're going to need a backup point guard. The guy that I personally would go with is Dyson Daniels for his price and for how good he is, especially on the defensive end of the court. He's a great option. Outside of that, I'm not sure who else on this team I want to keep. I don't know. I just don't feel like none of these cards are really worth their MT. You got 103K. Once you sell all the optional players like Jerry West, Jay Rich, Tyson, and Wilt, you could have a lot more MT flexibility to go with. I'll plug Giannis in at that backup power forward position. Still think he's solid. At the starting power forward position, I think we go a guy like Paulo at the starting center. We go a guy like Chet Holmgren. Starting two, probably I would go value piece again here with Bruce Bowen. He's super cheap and super good as a 3-and-D guy. Kawhi can come off the bench as your backup small forward. Danny Green can come off the bench as your backup shooting guard for the time being. Actually, I say that. No, you know what I'm going to do? We're going to throw Latrell Sprewell in here, and we're going to bring Latrell into this lineup because he is worth his price 100%. And actually, we're going to bring Latrell off the bench because you could use Latrell as more of a ball handler considering your starting lineups better. I would actually think having Latrell next to a defensive-minded lineup like this as a ball handler would be really useful off the bench. And then the final piece to this team, for now, I honestly think maybe you just stick with Tyson Chandler. I don't think he's a bad card for his price. I think you can build a squad something like this. You're probably going to come out pretty close to even in terms of MT wise from where you started. You'll probably have, I would say, somewhere close to that 100K MT mark still. And this 10-man is a lot better than this 10-man. So for me, that's how I would look to change up this team. Building a squad like this is going to give you a lot more success as a really, really capable budget squad in my team. So hopefully you did enjoy the video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more 2K content very, very soon, and I appreciate y'all. Peace.